Next up in our journey to preview all 30 teams in the NBA is the Atlanta Hawks, a team that I'm super excited for this upcoming season because last year they made a clear decision of where they wanted to go as an organization, trading Trae Young, and this offseason they've just done more of the same, bringing in a player in Lu Dort who is great on the defensive end of the court and showing their priority is defense, physicality, and length. They're going to be an absolute pain in the butt in the Eastern Conference. And last year in the playoffs against the New York Knicks, they gave the Knicks, the team that won the NBA championship, the best series out of anyone, taking a 2-1 lead after CJ McCollum was hitting huge shots down the stretch in those two games that they won, and really putting a huge scare in the team that won the NBA title. The Atlanta Hawks, coached by Quinn Snyder, have made some really nice moves this offseason. They traded Zachary Risachet, which really it's disappointing that they got the number 1 overall pick in the year that he was the guy that was picked, because the year before I believe was Victor Wembanyama and the year after was Cooper Flagg. If either of those teams were on, or if either of those players were on the Atlanta Hawks for this upcoming year, you'd probably be picking them to come out of the Eastern Conference, but they were able to flip Zachary Risachet and add a player in Lu Dort who will provide real value to their team. When you look at the way that their team is built, they're super long defensively, and they're going to be super hard to score on. And they made a smart trade with the New Orleans Pelicans last year, which allowed them to draft 8 overall and add a player in Kingston Flemings out of Houston, a player that has a really high basketball IQ. That's what everyone says about him. He's super intelligent. The way that he plays the game is the right way. He's able to distribute the basketball to his teammates. He's 6'4", plays really physical on the defensive end of the court, really fitting into what I think the Atlanta Hawks are wanting to build in their culture. And when you look at the way that their team is set up, it's led by a player in Jalen Johnson who took another step forward last year from averaging 18.9 points a game 2 years ago to 22.5 points per game last season. And we're going to talk more about him in a second. But you look at the guards on this team, and CJ McCollum, Kingston Flemings, Nickeil Alexander Walker, they're going to be able to score the basketball and create shots from those guards, and they're going to rely on that heavily because a lot of the rest of their roster is super defensive based, and that is really valuable in this Eastern Conference. And I'll talk about where I see the Hawks fitting in the East in a few minutes, but let's start with, some of the players on this team. Obviously, CJ McCollum, a veteran player, a smart basketball player that's clutch in playoff situations. You'd love to have him on your team, but he just plays basketball the right way and is really easy to fit in. They were able to sign him to an extension this offseason. It wasn't too expensive of a deal, so you liked being able to bring back CJ McCollum. I already talked about Kingston Flemings a little bit, but as he develops as a rookie, I think you'll see him playing an important role in setting his teammates up for success. He shoots a high percentage from 3. One of the critiques of him as a college player was he just didn't shoot a lot of them. I think we'll see that start to progress in the NBA. It's a 3-point heavy league, and if he's a player that really works on that shot, I think he'll be able to develop that, because shooting a high percentage tells me he's going to be able to shoot that shot at an NBA level. You look at your 2 guard, you'll have, Lu Dort, Nickeil Alexander Walker, Dyson Daniels, whoever you want to consider the 2 guard, but you have real depth on this roster now because Nickeil Alexander Walker last year averaged 21 points a game, and pairing him alongside Jalen Johnson, who averaged 22.5 points a game. CJ McCollum, I believe, averaged 19 in the playoffs in the regular season. They're going to be able to score the basketball, I think, enough to where that elite defense will really be able to show itself and manifest them into being a really, really quality basketball team in the Eastern Conference, a conference that has a lot of interesting teams, but a lot of flawed teams as well, especially, I'll talk about that. Again, I'll get into that in a minute, but teams like the Miami Heat, super flawed. The Detroit Pistons, super flawed. And the Atlanta Hawks, I think, are going to be in a good spot heading into next season. Going forward in their lineup, again, Dyson Daniels, Nickeil Alexander Walker, Lu Dort. It'll be interesting to see who starts. I'm sure Dyson Daniels will start, but between Nickeil Alexander Walker, Lu Dort, how they want to set that up. Aaron Wiggins, adding him. He's a nice player. He was a nice player for the Oklahoma City Thunder, just adding to the depth of this Hawks team. And Jalen Johnson, obviously, at their other forward spot, has just taken huge step forwards year after year. Last year, averaging 22.5 points a game, 10.3 rebounds, 7.9 assists. He almost averaged a triple-double. And third-team All-NBA, All-Star game appearance. If he's able to take that next step forward, Jalen Johnson would be one of the top, players in the NBA because of his ability to play on both sides of the basketball, and his versatility is really impressive. There's not a lot of players in the NBA that can score, that can rebound, that can distribute the basketball and go on the other side and defend at a high level. And I'm really excited for Jalen Johnson. And the next step would be being able to put some of those skills to use in the playoffs as well. In their playoff run, the Hawks didn't score a ton of points. It was only like 100 points per game. Obviously, they only played one series against a really good Knicks team. But you start to see teams' biggest flaws in playoff spots. And part of that, I think, was just creating your own shot as a Hawks team. Nickeil Alexander Walker didn't play as good in the playoffs, but CJ McCollum was creating a lot for them. So now adding another guard in Flemings. And hopefully he can help set them into some of their offenses when CJ McCollum goes to the bench. Jalen Johnson, if he can take that step forward, I think you'll see a much improved Hawks team in the playoffs this upcoming year. And obviously at center, they have Onyeka Okongwu. Apologize if I said his first name incorrectly, but Okongwu, who I really like as a center. Good defensively, really big post presence. They got off of Kristaps Porzingis midway through last season. They also got Jock Landale off their bench. I believe they re-signed him this offseason, but he's a player that a big body that can play some minutes. You have Buddy Hield on your team, Devin Carter, just guys who can add some depth. Buddy Hield, we know, can shoot at a really high level and will have moments that he'll provide some value for the Atlanta Hawks. And getting into a little bit of, you look at the Eastern Conference, and there's so many teams that are interesting and talented, but they have clear flaws. You think of teams like the Philadelphia 76ers, who made a trade for Jaylen Brown. Well, how is Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe, Jaylen Brown all going to be able to handle the basketball, playing off of each other? Will Jaylen Brown come in and realize it's not his team? Joel Embiid, how many games is he going to play? I just think there's a ton of question marks behind the Philadelphia 76ers. The Miami Heat, obviously you're adding Giannis Antetokounmpo next to Bam Adebayo, but your guard play is dreadful. Tim Hardaway Jr., Davion Mitchell, Drew Smith. Not a set of guards that I'm a huge fan of. I'm not high on the Miami Heat. The Boston Celtics, obviously, Tatum's coming off of his Achilles injury. You're adding Paul George. I just don't think vibes are super good right now in that fan base, in that building. There's question marks there. The Cleveland Cavaliers, are they bringing in LeBron James? It kind of feels like they've been at a standstill this offseason. James Harden hasn't re-signed his extension. And it's a team that in the playoffs has kind of underperformed from time to time. The Detroit Pistons haven't re-signed Jalen Duren yet. Vibes don't feel very good around there. There's reports he doesn't even want to come back to Detroit. So looking at the Eastern Conference, the Atlanta Hawks have to feel really good about, the vibes of the team, where they're at, and feeling like, hey, we got a little bit better this offseason for a team that finished the year really good in Atlanta and played well in the playoffs against a Knicks team, withstanding that last game where they were down by like 50-something points. But other than that, a team that really felt like they were gaining momentum and getting off of a player in Trae Young that had been the face of your franchise for years, led you to an Eastern Conference Finals, was a big part of that, was a big decision for them. And a clear step that they didn't think they were going to be able to reach the level they wanted with Trae Young, putting some trust and some belief in the Jalen Johnsons of the world, the Dyson Daniels. You bring in CJ McCollum, a veteran. But as those guys develop, it'll be really interesting to watch this Atlanta Hawks team. And Quinn Snyder's a coach that I've been high on for a very long time. Obviously, he was with the Utah Jazz before this, and I think he did a really good job in Utah, and he goes to Atlanta, and they've been a very competitive basketball team. I think he's a smart coach. They play basketball the right way, and I can't wait to watch the Atlanta Hawks this upcoming season. That is all we got for you as of right now. I don't think there's really many other moves coming down the pipeline. It sounds like Jonathan Kuminga will probably end up on another basketball team. But if there's any other moves, it might obviously change our opinions. And if that happens, we will record another reaction at that point. But if you love the NBA, make sure you take a second to subscribe to the channel. Appreciate y'all watching. Saborgao.